is going out live to everybody yet, but I'll just say my name is Max Miller, and I want to welcome you to The Fair Fight with Alvaro and Max. Alvaro, why don't you, while we're waiting for the live feeds to connect here, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about our show and what we're doing?
Yeah, sure. First of all, hello, man. How's it going? I hope
Hey,
the kids are getting out the door okay. I recognize it's 7:45 in Des Moines, not 8:45
do you,
here.
do you see the bags under the eyes?
I don't, but it's because you're beautiful. So
Oh, thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
That's a
You're
sweet.
welcome. Yeah. All right, everyone. So for everyone tuning in, I suspect we'll have some new folks. Max and I are spinning up a new show that fills what we think is a bit of a gap. I think there's a lot of programming out there that looks at stuff as left versus right. We look at it in terms of the money at the top versus everyone underneath. And so today we are going to be talking about this, what was a bidding war between Netflix and Paramount to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. I think to give you a clear example of how I think what we're doing is a little bit different, I think there was a lot of leftists that or liberals that wanted Netflix to win, and a lot of conservatives that wanted Paramount to win. And Max and I think that both of these deals were and are
I want
completely
Warner Brothers to
rotten.
compete.
That's
Just
right.
compete in the
That's
market.
right. And so what we're doing right now, folks, is we are starting kind of in beta. What's it called when restaurants open? A soft launch,
It's
a
a
soft
soft launch,
open.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very experimental, very nascent. So we're doing these lives at drive time on Fridays, 8:45 a.m. Eastern, 7:45 Des Moines time Central.
And
Meanwhile,
we've been doing them kind of bi-weekly at this point in
yeah, and
time.
we really
I
should
think
kick it into weekly.
we're
I
gonna
think.
try for our live version of the
Yes.
show. Do it every
Yes.
Friday morning on your drive.
Yeah. So we're doing that. While we are doing that, folks, Max and I are trying to create what we're calling kind of like a car talk for the messed up economy. And what that means is, for those of you who are, I think we probably caught some elder. Some elder millennials. So if you're
Is
an
that what
elder
they call us,
millennial,
right?
you
Yeah.
probably still grew up with Car Talk, Click and Clack, the Tappert brothers, who broadcast out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. It was a show where you'd call in with your problems with your car, and you'd get roasted a little bit by Click and Clack, but you'd actually get some good advice. So we are trying to do that right now for the modern 21st century economy. We have recorded some pilots with one of the leading social media experts out there, pediatrician Dr. Jenny Radesky.
That's going to be a great episode.
It's going to be a good one, and I think it's a really practical one for parents.
Yeah.
We recorded one with Jennifer Abruzzo, our nation's leading labor lawyer, on all this insane surveillance that's happening at work. And you are hearing here first that our next episode that we are cutting is
You forgot
with
one though. Hey,
I did
Alvaro,
forget one because I'm
Yeah,
excited.
we have an agricultural
okay,
episode for
go
those
ahead,
of you
talk
that
about
care
that.
about ag
Talk about that.
markets. We have Basil Mushbarish, who will be talking to us about all the different consolidation in agricultural markets. So that'll be one of our pilot episodes that will launch eventually.
And so the other pilot that we are about to cut, we are thrilled to be hosting the one, the only Cory Doctorow. And so pretty soon you're going to see a request for questions for the one and only Cory Doctorow.
What
are your
word did
questions?
what word did he invent, Alvaro?
He invented the word enshittification, which I am totally vanilla. I still feel a little bad saying. But
Platform
describes how everything on the internet starts out all roses and ends up after being washed in venture capital money and after capturing lots of people and capturing the business vendors, ends up as a big pile of ish, as I think the kids would say.
Billionaires ruin everything.
And so that is what's coming, folks. So stay tuned, please, for a request for questions to the one and only Cory Doctorow. We're going to be talking about what he calls reverse centaurs. So for those of you with little children in your lives, or for those of you who are huge nerds like I am, a centaur is a person, a torso and head of a person with the body of a horse. And so if you are driving a car, you are a centaur in the terms of automation speak, because you're a human brain driving this massive beast of a vehicle. But Corey is worried that all of us are becoming reverse centaurs. And he talks about the Amazon delivery drivers who are told where to go, when to go, how to get there. They're like denied pee breaks. They are in 140-degree heat. And yet this massive mega corporation, this billionaire company, is just basically the machines are telling the people where to go. And so he says it's a machine brain, human body, reverse centaur. I think it's amazing.
Alvaro,
So
do
yeah.
you remember? Maybe I'm dating myself. Maybe I'm older and more aware than you of American culture. Do you remember Yakov Smirnoff?
I
The
I do
he
not
was
remember
he
Yakov
was this
Smirnoff.
comedian in the 80s. He did all this, but he was like, in Soviet Russia, car drives you. It's like I
Yeah,
can't help but think the reverse centaur is exactly that. It's like AI in corporatist America, AI is driving us.
that's right. So why don't we shift to talking about this
Yeah.
huge stinking
And what
mess.
a development in the last 12 hours here.
Yes. So
The,
why don't you talk about what that development is, and then I'll
oh,
kind of give
but
an overview of what happened.
so you might have seen, and look, I recognize kind of the irony of guys that are corporate skeptics and, talking about the powers of big tech and all of that. I used a little AI, for this little teaser of
Oh yeah, you can't
Netflix.
you can't do that again, man.
I know, I know.
You
I
can't
got
do
some
it again.
criticism. I get people are like, what, you're a hypocrite. And I'm like, yeah, I'm also on YouTube, and I sued Google for
That's a very good point.
monopolization.
That's a very good point.
It's
You
a
do you do
you,
get you do get some grace, but the
when
grace is
this,
gone now.
when everything is being bottlenecked, it's
Yeah,
like, you kind of got to take advantage of the tools you can.
yeah,
But anyway, so of Netflix fighting with Paramount over the WB logo, and until what was it, about 5 p.m. last night, 4 p.m. last night,
yeah,
that was still a relevant topic of
yeah,
the two of them fighting over WB.
yeah,
But last night Netflix withdrew, said they're not going to match the Paramount offer. And so now we are looking at a landscape where the deal that will be considered by
yeah.
antitrust enforcers is Paramount acquiring WBD, which is
Warner
Warner
Brothers
Brothers
Discovery.
Discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those watching at home who haven't been tracking this super closely, the thing to understand is that whereas Netflix just wanted to buy, Netflix did not want to buy CNN and some of what they call linear cable channels. Paramount very much wants to buy CNN, and that is very much included in this deal. And as we're about to talk about, the leadership of Paramount in the form of David Ellison, the heir apparent to Larry Ellison, founder of
What a
Oracle,
sniveling little schoolboy with
and
daddy's money.
I think he was a star in Flyboys, man. I don't know about you.
What's
he was
you're I'm missing your cultural reference here.
Are you?
What
Are
is
you?
it?
Did you forget about the James Franco and David Ellison vehicle Flyboys? You should take a moment to Google it. It's just as awesome as it sounds.
I missed that cultural.
It's about some heroic, heroic. I forget whether it's World War I or World War II pilots, but it's
Oh,
very
okay.
exciting. I do think Larry Ellison invested a load of money into promoting his son David Ellison's acting career. Now David Ellison just
I
runs
did
billion-dollar
not
companies.
realize. So wait, so David Ellison was an actor?
I
I didn't
mean,
realize that.
I mean,
I
to
mean,
the degree that there's like 5 minutes of me in a documentary, then I guess I'm an actor too.
I was in
Um,
Fahrenheit 9/11.
there you go. So
I
both
was.
of us, but me, you, and David Ellison are both actors. I'm pretty sure we don't have our union cards from the Screen Actors Guild.
I don't have an IMDb page yet.
Not yet.
So
Not yet. One can only hope. So let's zoom out. Let me provide a little bit of overview
yeah.
of what we're talking about, how this played out, and then start talking about some of the problems with this takeover. Because I think there's a lot of conservatives out there who are saying, "Oh, look, like I don't mind the Ellisons. I don't mind what they do." But I think there's stuff for everyone to be concerned about. Whether you're concerned about having movie theaters that are actually able to put out good programming, good films, or whether you're worried about the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman running the largest news channel on cable, which is CNN. So
Can you explain that,
yeah,
Alvaro?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
this is
Well,
like
so
this is important. But I think this is the biggest issue
yeah.
with this
Well,
merger.
let me just tease it,
Okay.
which is that this started out as a bidding war in the 70 and 80 billion dollar range between Netflix and Paramount. Paramount has now come in at 110 billion dollars, and one of the ways that it's been able to access that amount of money is by taking a trip to the Middle East and getting the public investment fund, the sovereign wealth fund, I believe, of Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Abu Dhabi to kick in roughly $24 billion. And so, we don't want the folks who are listening to this who are conservative, who are on the right side of the spectrum, to think, oh, look, my team is going to be in charge. Not so simple. So, anyways, let's zoom out. This whole thing started in October when Warner Brothers Discovery started receiving offers for its various properties. Pretty quick in that process, Netflix seemed to come out on front with a deal that mixed, I think, stock and cash. But then David Ellison, fresh off of completing a merger between Paramount and Skydance and being named head of that new company, said, no, 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 I want in on this. Okay, so you've got Netflix, and pretty much everyone, I'm sure, is familiar with Netflix and Netflix properties. Then you've got Paramount Skydance, which is this combination of Paramount Studios, also Paramount the streamer, also owns channels like CBS, which includes programming like 60 Minutes, right? Suddenly they say, no, we want in on this. And right before all this happened, everyone will remember that Donald Trump sued 60 Minutes for allegedly like remixing the Kamala Harris interview. Pretty much everyone acknowledged this was a spurious lawsuit. And July of last year, it is settled to the tune of $16 million. Right? Shortly thereafter, Bari Weiss, head of Free Press, is named the editor-in-chief of CBS or Paramount. It's effectively the same thing, so I'm not going to bother with that differentiation. And so suddenly, Paramount starts coming in, and people paid attention to the money fight. And yes, Netflix and Paramount were kind of, like those cars in F1, passing each other a little bit with the money. So first Paramount came in with the cash offer, and then Warner Brothers hilariously was like, yeah, you're offering more cash than Netflix, but like, David, where are you going to get this money, buddy? And so David then had to get.
Can I just point out something? Because I think this is a really important. So this deal ends up being for 111 billion.
Yeah, 111 billion.
Paramount's market capitalization.
Yes.
Which is you add up all of the stock.
Yes.
What the company is worth.
Yes.
Is only at its height in the last few months like 14 billion.
That's amazing.
Right? It's dropped because I think the investors are kind of pulling out because it's like you're going to take on all this stuff. So it's like you have a company that is coming in saying we're going to buy another company for 10 times our own value.
Yes.
Right?
It's like an ant trying to eat a cat. And how does the ant do it? With debt, with loads and billions of dollars of debt. And
Middle Eastern oil.
And Middle Eastern money, right? So two things happen, to get this pile of cash. The first thing is that these Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds come in and they're like, all right, we'll hook you up with $24 billion. For a hot minute, Jared Kushner's part of the deal. Then he steps out. For a hot minute, Tencent, owner of ByteDance.
that would have raised a whole bunch of, what is it?
Tripped up CFIUS issues, which is a foreign investment authority of the United States. But anyways, one of my favorite forgotten facts about the money fight is that David Ellison has to go to his father, Larry Ellison, to back the deal with the Ellison Family Trust. And so anyways, they're like going back and forth on the money and like Netflix.
How much of this is really like David's desire, right?
Yes.
And how much is it? I've seen Game of Thrones,
Right.
Do we think that Jamie Lannister, was making all of his decisions on his own?
That's right. So anyways, but I think what people need to understand here is that it wasn't just a money fight, right? As early as November 2025, like Netflix is bidding with money. Who knows what they're bidding with behind the scenes? But Paramount is bidding with money, but it's also bidding with censorship. because as of November 2025, Hugo Lowell of The Guardian reports that Larry Ellison father has called the White House and is actually discussing. I don't know if you can throw up A1 from the Google Drive up here. Larry Ellison, dad to David Ellison, is calling up the White House and discussing the specific anchors on CNN who could be pulled down if the Ellison family is allowed to take over CNN. And so there's actually and so that is the start of this effective censorship bidding war that Paramount is engaged in. So soon after that, in December, Trump says, I think in a Kennedy Center gala that he attends, he's like, yeah, I'm going to be involved in, I'll be involved. I can't do the Trump impression this morning. I'll be involved in any deal as to who will buy Warner Brothers. And he kind of starts signaling like Netflix, lot of market share. He kind of starts signaling he wants Paramount. Then on December 8th, which is a Monday, Trump starts blasting Paramount for airing a 60 Minutes interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who we have mixed feelings about in the show because she has said some insane stuff about Jewish people and lasers. Yeah, but look, her critique of the economy is can be quite compelling.
Also like it seems what I've seen from Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, is at least some Federalist principles, like that she's criticizing overstep by this administration, which
she's an independent thinker. She said some, as you said, abhorrent stuff in the past. I think she's apologized for some of it. Yeah.
But she spouts off her mouth. But at least, people. Here's the deal. It's like I prefer people that you actually know where they stand, that they're not afraid to say what they actually think, than people that are always crafting a message for people to. Yeah. I want you to know just what I want you to know.
Yes.
And so it's like, I mean, that's, because there's an old saying, like a known devil is better than an unknown devil.
Yes. So anyway, so Donald Trump calls her a quote low IQ traitor. Has been out there. And so he gets angry that 60 Minutes has run the show, so he starts blasting Paramount for it. That afternoon, the Wall Street Journal reports that David Ellison's son now has called the White House.
Larry Ellison's son? David Ellison?
David Ellison, son. David Ellison, son, has called the White House and said, hey, look, like, we will completely restructure CNN programming if its bid wins out.
Do you want me to put up the other?
Which one? Oh, that one's from The Guardian. That one's from The Guardian. We're way past that now. Don't worry about it. What, do you have the Wall Street Journal story?
Wasn't this the second one you had?
No, the second one is just a detail. That's just a detail from The Guardian story by Hugo Lowell. You're good.
All right.
So then Donald Trump 2 days later is like, look, any deal needs to involve CNN because everyone there is corrupt. Right. So this is at a business roundtable. So again, basically he's chiding Paramount for this programming on 60 Minutes. Right. So he's telling Paramount kind of what he wants. Right. And he's telling the world what he wants. I want CNN to be part of this deal. I'll be involved in any deal where, needs to be restructured because these people are corrupt. Right. And so then what happens?
Donald Trump is calling people corrupt.
I mean, it takes one to know one, bud. Although I don't think it quite lands with CNN. CNN has lots of problems. I'm not exactly sure if it's corrupt. Like Donald Trump is corrupt, at least.
I mean, it's a corporation.
Well, all right. I think a lot of small businesses that we're friends with would object to that.
When I say corporation, I mean big corporations. I mean, I do not talk about small businesses as a corporation, even though, yes, I'm incorporated.
Yeah.
I'm incorporated, but and that's what it was intended to be for, by the way.
Yep.
It was intended for that, capital to be protected in a business venture. It wasn't intended to grow to like the size of small governments.
Right.
Like,
So, pardon me. So then, right before Christmas, you will remember that there was a CBS 60 Minutes investigation into CCOT, this bizarre Salvadorian torture prison that we'd illegally sent like 100 people to over a judge's orders. It's literally about to go to air, and Bari Weiss, the censor in chief at CBS, pulls it down last minute. And she issues this explanation like, oh, we didn't get enough comment from the administration. Like, I was just asking questions. So already you see how Paramount, Larry Ellison has called the White House and said, like, you want Aaron Burnett off? Done. You want Breonna Keeler off? Done. David Ellison then follows up a few weeks later, says, we will totally restructure CNN. Then Bari Weiss reads the writing on the wall, pulls down a critical CBS 60 Minutes investigation. And now the latest part in Paramount's censorship bid is what happened with James Tallarico. James Tallarico and Jasmine Crocker are locked in a neck-and-neck fight for the Texas Senate Democratic nomination. Tell me, go ahead.
didn't we miss the Colbert being pulled? Did you already?
Oh,
did you already cover
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I think that's
right
huge.
before, like at the very start of this, Stephen Colbert, right around the time that the Paramount Skydance merger, this is one merger ago, is going through, Colbert's show is canceled. And $16 million are promised to the president for a spurious lawsuit around the Kamala Harris 60 Minutes interview, right? So started with Colbert getting canceled, $16 million being paid to the president, continued with Larry Ellison calling the White House promising to pull down Aaron Burnett, Breonna Keeler, continued with David Ellison calling the White House saying we will restructure CNN, continued with Bari Weiss pulling down the CCOT investigation last minute from 60 Minutes, and now, most recently, has finished with CBS lawyers telling Stephen Colbert he can't have Democratic Senate Texas candidate James Tallarico on his show because of a rule that for literal decades has never applied to this kind of interview from the SEC.
But it's
this
also,
is the censorship
we used
bidding
to
battle.
have. Can we just talk for a minute about
Yeah.
that? Because I do think that Tallarico thing is important with talking.
Yeah.
Because like when I look back on American history, when I look at kind of how things have become so bad in American
Yeah.
history, I often end up at the Reagan administration.
Yeah.
As being kind of a real starting point for putting America on the wrong track. And one of the things that the Reagan administration did, so just so everybody knows, the airwaves belong to the government. Okay?
Yeah.
It does not belong to these individual broadcast companies. They don't own it. They lease it from the government. And so because of that, the government can have some rules about, so think about obscenity rules on the airwaves, right? That you can't, utter certain words and all that. That's why we like the internet and not the airwaves, because we can curse and say what we want to. So there are rules that the FCC can put on it. And one of them was the fair time rule.
Yeah.
Which was that essentially, if you were going to like have a partisan like take on an issue, right? Like you need to give equal time, the equal time rule. You need to give equal time to somebody else to on the other side to offer a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
And but here's the deal: Reagan didn't like that. Reagan and Republicans did not like that. Like basically any time that they wanted to say something, a spin, a story a certain way, that the other spin had to be given so that the people could have a choice, right? So they got rid of that rule in the FCC. That's what allowed. It's not until after that rule gets put away that you start having Rush Limbaugh be on the air. And then all of a sudden you've got these right-wing people, Fox News. All of that is because of the fact you get rid of that equal time rule.
Yeah.
So then what? Now that they're in power and controlling the FCC, they're going to say, oh, it's back now. Because that's exactly what this FCC did. Is that because one of the interpretations of it was that it didn't apply to late night talk shows.
Yeah,
for
there was
all
a
these
Jay
decades.
Leno decision in the 90s that made that clear.
And I don't even think they actually have changed that yet. I think didn't
Brendan Carr, the head of FCC, issued some guidance saying that basically if he decided it was too partisan, then that exception wouldn't apply.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
but that's
No,
it's the Talarico situation was just kind of ridiculous from a
that's right.
historical view.
That's right. And so, so you've got this. So basically, and then what happened yesterday? Yesterday, what happened is Ted Sarandos, the I think co-head of Netflix, basically, it went to the White House for a meeting in the context of Paramount just having been given a new opportunity to bid on Warner Brothers. I think like about a week earlier. Sarandos goes in to meet with the White House, walks out of it, and then a few hours later, Netflix says, look, we're not going to try to match Paramount's new big bid. Netflix basically pulls out. Who the heck knows what that conversation was between him and the president? I'm sure it will leak in some capacity sometime
I
soon.
can guess. I can guess. It's basically it's like if you succeed on this, we're going to like sue you for antitrust.
Yeah.
Right? It's using antitrust
Yeah.
as a weapon instead of as a principle that must be followed.
Yeah. So, so like this is where we're headed, right? We are headed to a world where one family, the Ellison family, who was extremely close to this president, they already control CBS. They already control properties like 60 Minutes. They already control the CBS Evening News, which, like, of the big three, I believe for a long time was the leading newscast. And already is the platform on which you have Stephen Colbert for at least a few months until May, right? Yeah. They will now control CNN, right? The home of not just the Jake Tappers and Aaron Burnett's of the world, who sometimes are critical of this administration, but also of Roy Wood Jr., who hosts what is my favorite show, Have I Got News for You, who is a hilarious critic of this administration. Look, all opportunity critic pretty much makes fun of everybody, but like in my view has one of the sharpest shows. The Ellison family will also own HBO, home of John Oliver, another one of the sharpest critics of this administration, with Last Week Tonight. On top of all of this,
I think he proved though with the Talarico interview.
Yeah.
I think Colbert could probably just go independent and maintain.
Well, we're going to talk about this because I think I don't want people to look at this and say, all is defeated. Like, no, there's actually a lot of different ways.
I got some spicy ideas.
Oh, good.
Just gonna...
No. And so the Ellison family through Oracle also has this key stake in TikTok, right? So you got CBS, CNN, HBO, and TikTok all in the hands of this one family, okay? And already on TikTok, there's been some back and forth. A lot of people have said ever since this new ownership, American ownership came in, and in the run up to it, certain kinds of messages, for example, about ICE were censored. Certain messages about the Epstein files were censored. There's been some critique and pushback on that, where some experts came in and said, actually, this is probably a data center thing, but like, if you just look at what the Ellison family did with CBS, it is not at all crazy to look at their takeover of TikTok or this key stake in TikTok and say, surely censorship is coming down the road there. Now, at this stage, if you're a conservative, you might say, like, look, guys, I feel like the liberals have kind of owned, news for a long time. I don't really see the issue here.
Despite the fact of Sinclair owning all of the local news stations, despite the fact...
Well, I'm just saying, look, a lot of conservatives do think
I know
this,
they think
right?
that. They think that, but, even when it was a quote-unquote liberal news station like CNN or MSNBC, often it was really a corporate message that was being given, skepticism about taxing the rich, skepticism about antitrust and, blocking mergers. So it's like, whatever we decide is like liberal, we should always remember too, it's like we need all views. Yeah. We need all views to be expressed in the media landscape.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And look, like, I am sympathetic to people who, on the right, who, maybe don't watch local news. Maybe they just watch the big cable channels, and outside of Fox News, they didn't feel like they had a home. And I don't agree with that, but I understand that. But here's the thing, folks on the right who are looking at this deal and like, oh, whew, like Netflix didn't get it. My friends, CNN and HBO are not just about to be owned by the Ellison family. They're about to be owned by the literal kingdom of Saudi Arabia, of Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. And I don't know, Max, if you were able to pull that page 44 of the SEC filing. Are you able to pull that up?
I have it. Do you want
Okay.
me to show it?
Maybe you could show it. I think it
I
kind of
can,
sounds
yeah.
crazy when you say it out loud.
It
So
really
if you could
does.
pull it up, I think it's helpful. And like,
Let me just make sure that
so here, while you do that, I'll talk about this a little bit. So there was a really funny two-step here where at the end of last year, the Ellison family like goes to these Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds and says like, hey guys, can you kick in a little bit of money here? And so they're like, yes, of course, we shall kick in $24 billion. And so immediately they also go to Tencent, the Chinese company that owns ByteDance, that owns TikTok, or used to own TikTok, everywhere, now owns it everywhere except with a minority stake in the US. Also went to the Kushners. And so there's this really funny moment where everyone was like, yo, what exactly are you doing? And can you zoom that up? What exactly are you doing?
let me try.
You'll get it, don't worry.
It's
And so the Ellison family, Paramount, was like, oh, guys, don't worry. Don't worry. Like, we are doing this thing where, where our financing partners, and I will read them out loud, lest you doubt me, quote, the Public Investment Fund, parens, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, close parens, Limad Holding Company, PJSC, open parens, Abu Dhabi, close parens, Qatar Investment Authority, parens, Qatar, and Affinity Partners, parens, Jared Kushner, bolded, italicized, have agreed to forgo any governance rights, including board representation associated with their non-voting equity investments. Accordingly, the transaction will not fall within CFIUS jurisdiction. So I don't know about you, Max. I feel a lot better about this. That the Saudis won't have. I feel really good. I think this deal should go through. So I hopefully that puts you at ease.
Can we explain to people, because this is where, like, I'm sorry, but corporate law is fucked up. And I mean, I'm not going to mince words here on it. The idea that a leveraged transaction like this, which it is, it's because remember,
can you explain what a leveraged transaction is?
So
for
the
folks?
company is only worth, Paramount is only worth in total on its best day $12 to $14 billion.
Yeah.
And they are engaging in a transaction. Like, we're talking like 2008 real estate level, like leveraging, where it's like you've got a little pot of money and you're buying a mansion.
Again, like a $14 billion company making a $110 billion bid. Yes.
And so the idea that the financial backers of that transaction don't have some control, like, you're nuts. But you know what? On paper, it says they don't have control. And so that's like where there's so much that is a fiction about corporate law. Like, it's just fictional, right? They're just like, we're just going to act like, well, if they don't have a seat on the board, they have no voice. And we're just going to pretend like that's the case. But, it's not just going to be the foreign sovereign wealth funds here, right? And we're talking about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which, to remind people, was responsible for dismembering a journalist, an American journalist,
Washington Post journalist,
on American soil.
On Turkish soil.
Turkish soil. Sorry, it was Turkey that he was in, not
But on Saudi Arabian soil, because it was it was an embassy or consular office.
Because he was required to go to the embassy because he's a Saudi Arabian, right? And but this was an American. Was he a citizen? Did Khashoggi gain his?
I forget his status.
But he was
either a permanent resident or a citizen.
Post.
Yeah, he's an American journalist. Yes.
And he was critical of the Saudi Arabian kingdom, right? And he was dismembered. And Saudi Arabia has faced no consequences for it. We concluded, right? I think our intelligence agencies concluded.
He was a legal permanent resident. American intelligence concluded that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was causally responsible for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, which was a horror. It was a complete horror. People can Google it. I'm not going to go into the grisly details.
And now that same family, the Saudi
royal family is about to own CNN. And like you said, Max,
and
like
CBS.
Yep.
and
Yep.
kind of tangentially TikTok.
Oh, I don't know if they're going to own CBS. I don't know how they've structured the transaction, but like still, if they just own CNN and HBO, this is an issue. And like you said, Max,
Yep.
like this is like someone lending you money. You know, I've lent money to people in the past, and it is inevitable. And look, I've lent a couple $100 to people or a couple $1,000
Yeah.
to people in the past, and
Oh,
like
you're a generous individual.
it's
sir.
only happened once or twice. But
If you're low on cash, hit Alvaro up for money.
no, do not do this. No, I am not a wealthy guy. I drive a
All that.
2013 Honda Padiddle.
That was a great game. Sorry to digress, folks. but
Padiddle?
Padiddle? Yeah, do you
Padiddle?
know that?
Yeah.
You know that game?
I do know that where you just hit
like-
someone when you see a. I don't know
One
about a game. I
headlight.
think it's like an excuse to beat people.
Oh no, it's like and the way we played it in Iowa was you
Oh.
see a car with one headlight, right, and you got to hit the top of the car that you're in and say.
Oh, the
Padiddle.
way I played it was you can if you see a Padiddle, you can just punch someone next to you.
Wow, you come from, I mean, upstate New York. I know.
Upstate New
It's
York's
like-
real
it's
rough.
It's
Binghamton's
rough.
real
We
rough,
just
man.
wrestle each other. We don't punch each other.
That's right. So where? Oh yeah. So if you lend someone money, you care about how that person conducts their lives, right? Like I noticed, you know how my friends, what they were doing with their lives, when I lent them some money, right? Oh, like you're not paying me back, and so the idea that these sovereign wealth funds are going to kick in $24 billion into this, but they're not going to be
Look at
on
that.
board.
They're kicking in more than the company, twice as much as the company.
Spell that out. Spell that out.
The royal families of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Qatar. I always get caught on the pronunciation of that country. Qatar
Yeah.
and the UAE, Abu Dhabi specifically. Those three royal families, those sovereign wealth funds,
Yes.
oil money is
Yes.
good. Their investment into this deal is twice as much as the
Yes.
entire value of Paramount Skydance.
Paramount, I just checked, worth $12 billion in market capitalization. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi are putting in a combined $24 billion, my friend. So this idea that like, ooh, they won't have a board seat, or ooh, they won't have...
There's no foreign interference issue here,
Right, like-
because they're not gonna vote.
It does not wash.
No.
This is a joke. It is a foreign takeover of these critical American news sources that, like, yeah, look, if you're a Fox, Newsmax, OAN watcher, like, okay, that's great. You watch what you want to watch. I don't see how you should feel better about the Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds that I've just named taking over CNN and HBO. So at this stage, Max, I feel like we should start talking about... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to start talking about some of the antitrust issues here.
Okay,
right?
yeah,
because,
yeah.
Because it's like, so we've talked about the capital behind this deal, right?
Yeah.
And like just kind of some broad principles that we should be concerned about. But let's just break it down. Let's put that aside for a moment. And just break it down and look at what is like combining here.
Yeah.
You're talking about two major studios.
Yep.
Right?
Number 2 and number 5.
that create, stories.
Hmm.
And look, I believe that much more important than data,
Yeah.
than statistics, it's the stories that we tell ourselves
Yeah.
that like matter and that really reveal truth of like what's important and what's not.
Yeah.
So storytelling is one of the most powerful. It's funny. I love my wife. Alvaro knows this. Anybody who's watched us knows.
It is a great love affair. It is amazing.
She's amazing, and she introduced me to a gentleman by the name of Joseph Campbell. And I don't know if are you familiar with Joseph Campbell?
I'll
Okay,
look him up.
he wrote his big kind of contribution was called The Hero's Journey, where he
Okay.
basically tracked all these folk tales like through like all these different cultures throughout history and throughout humanity. And it's like there are some like basic components of like there's like a truth of being a human that can be told through all these stories.
Yeah.
And so he talks about like the power of storytelling as like a way for us to know ourselves. And so when you talk about the combination of some of these most important storytelling venues, right?
Yeah.
Venue's not the right word or whatever. They produce our movies. They
Yeah.
produce our TV shows. They produce the
Yeah.
way that we tell stories to ourselves. Um, that's a competition issue, right? Like and when you have this advent, one of the big issues in Hollywood, in script writing and all that is like the advent of AI, right?
Yeah.
And these when you have that kind of power, if they control that much of the market, they're going to be able to fundamentally change the way that stories are told. They might
Yeah.
take out the human element and
Yeah.
and implement AI
Yeah.
as a way to tell our stories.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one component. So and then think
Yeah.
about all in those production of TV shows, of movies, etc. Think about all the people who are employed. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it was around 6 billion that they promised 6 billion of synergies with WBD combining
Did
with yeah. And when just so you know,
that
when
word, by the way, anytime I hear the word synergy, I'm like, whatever you just said is not true. Whatever you just said is not true. But go ahead.
it's
that
corporate,
word is like a
it's
not a
corporate
trigger word.
speak for evil.
I don't know if it's evil. It's evil. It's just fake. But
It's
go ahead.
Yeah. So the synergy being it's like, oh well, we can eliminate jobs.
There you go. There you go. It's
We can
corporate speak for
eliminate-
like we will fire, half the people over here and a third of the people over here, and like we're gonna pretend everyone's gonna get along when really they're gonna hate each other, and all the IT systems will not intersect, and we'll have to hire all these consultants to make this go through, and Deloitte will make a lot of money, and McKinsey make a lot of money, and at the end of the day,
gonna
like
take those
50% of
salaries
the
from
workforce will be out of work, our
hardworking
movies will suck, and like you're gonna be happy, I promise. Yes.
Synergy.
Synergy. Yeah. The aristocrats.
The aristocrat.
Yeah.
So that labor, the grips, the assistant directors,
Yes.
all of these people
Yes.
who are employed.
Yes.
There is going to be, and remember, is it merger guideline 10? That is the labor.
I don't know the number, but I know we spent an inordinate amount of time working on it. We should be a little circumspect about what we can say about it, but you should go ahead.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's like we have merger guidelines that were issued, and I tip my hat to this administration. The one thing that they have done
Yes.
that I was
Yes.
very pleased with
Yes.
was that they kept the merger guidelines that were
Yes.
developed under Jonathan Cantor and Lena Khan.
That's right.
The FTC
And
and,
us.
the DOJ
Yes.
under
and Dohan
under the-
Mickey. That's right.
Yeah. Wonderful
no,
people worked on it, but that it's like the effect to labor markets
Yeah.
is a competition issue.
Yes.
But this, and it's funny because I listened, one of my favorite publications and podcasts is the Capitol Forum, Teddy Downey's
Teddy Downey,
publication. And on Wednesday, he had on a gentleman who was actually a lobbyist for Netflix, so I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
That he was basically given like the Netflix case for acquiring, and he's saying it was like, fundamentally Netflix this is more of a vertical merger. Like we're getting into like the, kind of theatrical production game by acquiring, WB, where he's like, but the Paramount merger, it's entirely horizontal.
Yeah.
Like it is actually removing it's not entirely horizontal, but it's combining and so it's going to raise traditional Section 7 of the Clayton Act antitrust issues. So there is a case to be made here against Paramount, and then not to mention it's the power on the other side too as they're selling this product. Like think about these movies, how much they'll control now of the movies that are going into the market. So the power that they have over theater companies, right? Of the actual Fridley and AMC and all of those, that in order to they can get concession from those buyers of the films, right? Think about, you want to buy a digital copy of a film that's now produced by this. They're able to extract more money from you because they control so much of the market.
So let me zoom out for a second and talk about the antitrust. Let's talk about Rob Bonta as well. But so what Max is talking about for folks, I suspect there's some huge antitrust nerds like me and Max, who are watching. But there's also some folks who don't know what antitrust is. So basically, there's a set of laws in place since 1890 and 1914 and 1936 and 1950 that say that you can't just gobble up your competition. Instead of competing with them, your head-to-head competitors and the people that you compete with in the marketplace, you can't just gobble up your competition. You can't buy them, and you also can't cheat them, right? You can't, or cheat with them. And so one of the ways that a merger might be blocked is by federal or state officials saying, hey, look, these companies compete with each other. This is going to substantially reduce competition, which are the key substantial injury to competition, which are key words in the federal law from 1914, the Clayton Act, Section 7. And so one of the things that these antitrust enforcers are going to have to do is describe a market, right? And so Netflix was having all sorts of fun by saying like, oh, Netflix, like we actually compete with TikTok and we compete with YouTube Shorts. And it's like, all right, buddy, sure you do. But what's happening here, it is true that this is a very straightforward merger of two competitors. So there are 5 big legacy movie studios. Number 2 is Warner Brothers. Number 5 is Paramount. And I think it is and my colleague Matt Stoller talks about this very clearly. This is a 5-4 merger because they're outside of these big 5. You really don't have movie studios that can do these like massive blockbusters, like Dune 2 or like Sinners or like Gladiator 2 or the SpongeBob movie, like Minecraft, like all these movies that actually, or Mission Impossible. There's not that many movie studios that can put out these massive international blockbusters. And the other thing that differentiates these two is that they also have the pipes. They're also distributors. Yep. So Paramount has Paramount Plus, and Warner Brothers has HBO Max. And so this is going to be a merger of head-to-head competitors, and a clear one at that. One thing Paramount's going to do is say like, oh no, look at all of these movie studios. And if you look at like numbers.com or something like that, there's some, you're going to see this long list of movie studios. No, guys. This is a market with 5 participants in it. Not all of those participants, other than Disney, Paramount and HBO, have their own set of pipes in the system. In other words, have their own streamers. So this is going to be a concentration of the market. And as Max says, I learned this from working for Al Franken for 5 years in the Senate when he first joined the Senate. A lot of people picture Hollywood, and they're like, oh, Hollywood, that's where like Ryan Reynolds lives. That's a bunch of fancy people. My friends, Ryan Reynolds, Lindsay Lohan, although I think she's in like the Middle East now. I don't really understand. These things, Brad Pitt.
That sweet Middle Eastern.
I will say that is the one. Well, no, actually, that's not true. I was gonna digress us in an unhelpful way. That is a very small layer at the top of Hollywood.
Yeah.
People, you need to understand, what is Hollywood? Hollywood is a bunch of regular people who are like the grip, who are the cameramen, who are the extras, who are the makeup artists, who are caterers, who are the teamsters, who are driving these trucks around doing last mile delivery. Like
that's Hollywood.
That is Hollywood. Okay, and that is the industry of Hollywood, and that's why for a long time it was such a cool town where like you actually had a middle class. You have a middle class of people who are writers, and like most writers are not like the crazy fun writer who did Being John Malkovich. What's his name? Spike Jonze or something like that? No, Spike Jonze is a TV is a movie video.
I just watched that film again recently.
I mean, it holds up. It holds up.
It is such an excellent film.
And then when he goes into the Malkovich room, it's like Malkovich. It's just brilliant. Most writers are not that. Okay, and so this is a
Charlie
town.
Kaufman.
What was that? Charlie Kaufman.
Like,
most writers are not Charlie Kaufman. Most actors are not Brad Pitt. Most directors are not Steven Spielberg. And most people are none of these people. They're just the people making this stuff happen. Yeah. And so, you've got 2 movie studios. Is that famous Warner Brothers lot in Burbank gonna close? And so they'll make flashy shows of, oh, we're going to keep this, we're going to keep that. But like at the end of the day, and this is what Rob Bonta, Attorney General of California, is saying, a whole lot of middle class people are going to be out in the street, out of work, because you're merging 2 of the biggest movie studios in Hollywood. And yet, is George Clooney, going to care about that? And actually, he, to his great credit, along with Mark Ruffalo, has spoken out about some of this consolidation, but he's going to be just fine. the people who are going to get screwed over are those little guys. And that is why. And so this is the first thing, like starting to shift into the positive, because people on the left, we love to cry in our soup, right? We love nothing more than to be like, oh, it's so terrible.
I want to talk about action, Alvaro.
Let's talk about action. Because everybody, you're like, look, I'm not holding out hope that the Trump Department of Justice is going to block this. I don't know the new head of Trump antitrust, and so I'm not going to make any assumptions about him. But Donald Trump, the president, has made very clear that he will decide who gets this, and he clearly wants.
Imagine if Joe Biden had said that.
Oh yeah,
during the last administration,
right.
Like, just like it's amazing because in every antitrust
he
attorney,
just like walks out. I actually can't do a Biden impression, but yeah.
Sorry.
He's
a good man.
Right. So here's the key thing. I don't know. Not going to hold out hope for the Department of Justice, Trump Department of Justice, but any state attorney general can move to block this. Yeah. They can move to block this, immediately if there's harm to the underlying properties or if the close is imminent. But as soon as the ink is on the page, someone like Rob Bonta could intervene. He's an Attorney General of California, go ahead.
Well, this used to be what I did was like state
Get in there,
attorney
man.
general
Tell me.
Antitrust enforcement, and I just want to remind people, like states have a ton of power when they join together. Yeah. Like obviously states like New York and California, they have the most money for their antitrust enforcement.
How does that happen?
There's a couple of states that really have like the most budget to be able to take on a big merger challenge.
Yes.
So one is New York State.
Yes.
One is California. I'd include Texas in that, too. But there are a number of very active states in the antitrust community. And when they join together, they can actually do some pretty big things. So the most recent one, and this is kind of ironic because like I just, under Trump 1, there was a guy named Makan Delrahim who was in charge of the DOJ antitrust. And one of the things that he did was to get rid of the Paramount decrees, which had existed in American antitrust law since like the 1940s, which had to do with like vertical integration of movie studios and theater distribution and all of that. So I won't get into the specifics of that, but everybody said
because it's a big deal that he undid that.
Yeah. It's because it allows for the vertical integration for more power over the distribution.
You own the content and you own the pipes.
Yeah.
And so the idea used to be, both for cable through what are called the FinCEN rules. Senator Franklin was a huge fan of these, and the Paramount decrees. If you made the content, you weren't allowed to also decide what runs in the pipes. Yeah. And that encouraged really good pipes and really good content. And instead, what you get are like these things that Netflix does, where it's like produced in-house by Netflix. And like you watch it, and if you actually don't watch it with your smartphone in your hand, it feels like your brain is actively rotting in real time because it's designed to be watched while you're like, oh look, that's a funny Insta. Hey honey, can you watch that? Like, oh, what did they just say? And so that is what happens when you own the content in the pipe. So, anyways, Mr. Delrahim, and we'll tell.
It is just funny because at the time, like I love this because a lot of us in the antitrust community back in Trump 1 were saying it's like, wow, man, he's just really gunning for like a Hollywood job. Like he just seems like he really wants. And it was funny because most people don't realize this. Makan Delrahim, before he became DOJ antitrust, he actually produced a film.
No,
he did. He did. Yes,
what
he did.
film did he produce?
It was called Trash Fire.
Was it?
Look up his IMDb, man. Look
now.
Look up his IMDb.
Trash Fire, one word.
Yeah, no, I think it was 2 words. It starred what's his name from Entourage, I think. But anyway,
Trash Fire reviews. Hold on a second. 42 mixed or average. And
this was Makan Delrahim, and then he became the antitrust guy. He got rid of the Paramount decrees. Doing a huge favor to Hollywood.
Flaming out from the get-go, Trash Fire represents another soggy batch of Southern Gothic horror comedy from writer-director Richard Bates Jr. that spews out pitch black smoke with little combustible substance.
Yeah, but anyway, and then when he left the antitrust division, do you know what he did?
Oh, I know what he did, but you should talk about what he did, and let me find you the picture of the property.
Yes, he bought a home in Hollywood, California.
Yes.
That used to be owned by Drake.
Yes.
the rapper. And
Yes.
okay, so anyway, he's and now he's if I'm not mistaken, right? He's advising on the
He's
Paramount
advising
show.
Paramount, and the thing that people, yeah. So like, if you're not an antitrust nerd like me and Max, like, just to give you a sense of how much money this guy made. And look, he's very charming in person. He's a very effective lawyer for his clients, apparently.
You know, look, I actually get along with him. Like,
oh yeah, no, me too.
We've
me
been
too.
across the table from each other, and I get along with him.
When you make so much money that you buy Drake's mansion, maybe you're not working for the good guy. Like maybe you're on the wrong side of this. But okay, so we're talking about like a state attorney general, Rob Bonta, could come into this to his tremendous credit.
Sorry, now I remember why I was bringing in Macon Delray.
Oh, go ahead.
Because people forget he was the head of the antitrust division when T-Mobile and Sprint merged.
Oh yes.
He thought that was a fine merger.
Right.
He thought it was going to be great. He was going to spin it off to Dish Network, part of the network to Dish, so that this would not cause any problems in the cell phone industry. The state said, "Oh hell no." Oh hell no! Because and I was on the executive committee of the states that were investigating the Sprint T-Mobile merger, and so a coalition of states led by New York and California challenged the merger. And I got to tell you, you should go back and look at that record. They called exactly what was going to happen in the Sprint T-Mobile merger context. I'm really disappointed in the judge in New York who. Basically, I would sum up that decision as basically being, I really like the cut of T-Mobile's CEO Jib. He just seems like a trustworthy guy, and so I think we can trust him to, compete in the market. So anyway, there's a precedent for states going against what the federal government does, but it takes money, right? It takes a lot of capital. So when it goes to what you can do, I have a couple of ideas, but probably one of the most effective that you could do is to contact your state attorney general and let them know that this merger is anti-competitive and it needs to be blocked.
And again, for people who are tuning in, like, maybe some of you are liberal, but for those of you who are conservative, again,
I hope we have conservatives listening.
I think we do. Do you want Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi to be controlling CBS, CNN, HBO, CNN and HBO, right? Here's a couple other legal things, and I think it's important to talk about legislation and also talk about how people can vote with their wallets and with clicks. But look, litigation, it doesn't just need to be a state attorney general who could sue. A labor union who is concerned that these Hollywood roles are actually pretty specialized. It takes some time to learn how to become a really good cameraman. It takes some time to learn some of these trades, right? That's why they're unionized. So a labor union could stage a challenge to this to try to block it. A private plaintiff could stage a challenge to try to block it. I do think there was a class action to try to block Netflix's takeover of Warner Brothers. To my knowledge, there hasn't been one here. But here's the other thing that I think everyone needs to understand. I have not understood why more senators and congressmen haven't drawn a line in the sand and said, look, if you are inking a bunch of corrupt mergers with the help of the Saudis, right, with the help of like your censorship charm offensive, the moment we are in charge in 2029, we're gonna undo them. Because at the end of the day, the cold hard, our financial system and the financialization of our system has all these horrible side effects, but one of those not horrible effects in this case, in this application, is that if suddenly it becomes clear that if another party comes in, there's a 50-50 chance that this deal will become undone. The board and the investors in the company need to reckon with that.
And the financiers.
That's what I'm saying. The financiers need to reckon with that. Need to reckon with the fact that this thing may be mired in litigation, and all these executives who are paid on the basis of stock options and the worth of their stock need to understand that suddenly that stock may not look so sweet, right? And so
So
not only, let me give some credit here. Hold on. Senator Gallego, Ruben Gallego out of Arizona, was the first to say this a couple of months ago. Like,
good
look,
for him.
guys, any rotten merger needs to be undone on day one of a new administration. Cory Booker is starting to inch his way there. I think Ro Khanna has called out these proposed mergers. We need more people calling this out and saying, if this goes through, we will undo them. That is legislation. So number
Has
one thing you
Holly
can do. What's that,
commented?
buddy?
Has
What?
Holly commented on any of
I
these
don't think
corrupt
Holly did.
mergers?
Look, like
Like
I've had my
HPE,
differences.
Juniper, or anything like that? Has
Yeah, look,
Holly? Because Holly is one of the few Republicans that seems to actually care about competition and markets
yes,
and seems
yes,
to care about corporate power and consolidation. But
yeah.
it's like, this is what worries me about him, right? Like, is he out there talking about it when it's his party, like to his party's benefit to,
Yeah.
have these mergers go through?
So look, me and Josh actually go back a
I-
little bit. We went to law school together. He was perfectly pleasant in law school. He doesn't know this, but I actually moved his bookshelf into his apartment in Crystal City, Virginia, when I moved down to DC. I don't live in DC anymore. Haven't lived in DC for years. But in my U-Haul was Josh Hawley's fancy shelf that I moved into his Crystal City
How
condo
fancy
or
was it,
apartment.
Alvaro?
I was so fried from driving that U-Haul. It had no CD compartment. And like, I'm not, as you can tell, like, I'm not the guy you picture driving your truck effectively. And so I was completely fucking terrified that I would crash my U-Haul. So anyways, and look, I think him, and back, during the insurrection in the Capitol, January 6th, I said
Yeah.
Josh Hawley should resign from office.
Yeah.
And for that, he gave me all sorts of grief when I was nominated for the commission. But hold on a sec. I will say that when it comes to talking about AI and its impact on labor and the lodestars we should use in measuring it, when it comes to calling out credit card companies for being usurious against the people they supposedly serve. Josh Hawley has been outspoken in a positive way, and I've backed some of the stuff he said. I think if we had
And
more voices
and a few other Republicans
and a few
have
other
been out.
absolutely, and so we so you've had Chuck Grassley on some of the PBM issues. He's been really
Nice
outspoken.
senator, man. He was since
Pharmacy
the
middleman
80s.
issues.
He's been consistent too. I give.
He's been
Chuck Grass-
consistent.
He's been consistent against corporate power since
That's
like
right.
the 80s. Yeah.
You had Buddy Carter out of
Yeah.
Georgia protecting the small pharmacists that are dotting rural and urban America. A lot of folks on the left just know him from some of the stuff he does about like Greenland being called red, white, and blue land. Actually, Buddy Carter is a really forceful advocate for the pharmacies that dot rural America and urban America, and he's been really, really
and for
good
that,
at
he
it.
should be commended. He should be
Absolutely.
good. Yeah.
Marcella Harshberger, over on the House side, a pharmacist herself, is a really powerful advocate against consolidation. So you have a lot of folks on the right that are great advocates. Unfortunately, and I'm going to check myself right after I say this, Hawley at the merger panel with like Ted Sarandos, I did not listen to the full thing, but I think he like asked them a question about like, I'm gonna check myself. I thought it was kind of like a anti-woke question.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, it's unfortunate because I'm hopeful that in the next few
Hawley grills Netflix CEO on promoting transgender ideology, and it's like, buddy, there's much bigger issues here than whatever your version of woke is. So I'm hot and cold on Hawley. I think he does some great stuff on labor. I think he's woke. He's his own version of woke, and for whatever reason, he decided to be woke here rather than actually talking about how media
the real
consolidation works.
competition, the economic issue, because this is where it's like I believe very strongly. I come from a state that's very purple. It's been really red
Iowa.
over the last Iowa.
He's
it's
ruby
been-
red now.
It's a weird it's a weird state, right?
We
It's
had
a
J.D.
very
Schultz.
it's a very weird state, but it's like, so I know so many rank and file Republicans,
Yeah.
and they care about the same economic issues.
Yes.
They're skeptical about corporate power in every
Yes.
form. They're skeptical about the way that labor has been mistreated. They're
Yep.
skeptical about the way that,
Yes.
as producers, because so many of them are farmers in this
Yeah.
state, right? And they're getting screwed by
Yep.
corporate power on a daily basis. So
Yep.
I have hope that, if we can set like woke complaints
Yep.
aside. And by the way,
Yep.
like, let's be honest, why does woke even become an issue? Because it benefits the Epstein class, because it benefits the wealthiest portion of our population,
Yeah.
that they can say, fight over this,
Yeah.
fight over woke over here,
Yeah.
so that you don't actually recognize that concentrated
Yeah.
capital, that people with money, that billionaires, they are the real problem in this
Right.
country. And so we,
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
because I do want to,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
getting
yeah,
close to time here. What can people do
Yes.
to deal with this? If we don't like the merger here,
Yeah.
what can we do? One thing is you can file Tunney Act comments. Like, so let's just say that there's a settlement
Yeah.
that DOJ enters into. There's going to be a process, because the Tunney Act exists in order to prevent corruption in the antitrust enforcement realm. It's to make sure that the government doesn't enter into a sweetheart deal with like their preferred corporations, right? In order to, skirt the antitrust laws. So
Yeah.
there's an open process where in the Tunney Act, you can actually file
Yeah.
your objections to the merger and
Yeah.
provide your reasons why you object to it.
Yeah.
Number 3, Alvaro started to talk about this, and it's so important.
Yeah.
This deal is not done yet. There are obligations like that banks have provided, that capital
Yeah.
has provided, that sovereign wealth funds have provided. But for the most part, they're concerned about making sure that they're going to make money on this deal.
Yeah.
Because Paramount has such a small capitalization in comparison to
$12
this,
billion, $110
we
billion
can
deal.
drive Paramount stock
Yes.
into the ground.
Yeah.
And you know how we do that?
Yeah.
By canceling your Paramount Plus and then posting about it online.
Yeah.
Right? Like, make this a trend.
Yeah.
Make it a trend to cancel anything related to Paramount. Swear off any movies that are produced by Paramount Studios. Make it the most toxic brand in America.
Yeah.
Investors are going to start pulling out.
Yeah.
They're going to start pulling out. That's going to drive their stock down. That's
Yep.
going to create problems with the
That's right.
financing. You could break up this deal just
Yep.
simply by canceling your Paramount Plus account.
Yeah, and imagine if these three things were layered on top of each other, right? Imagine if State Attorney General Rob Bonta is able to amass a coalition of attorneys general like Phil Weiser of Colorado, like Letitia James in New York, like hopefully some red state state attorneys general. We're friends with Scarametti down in Tennessee. Hopefully
guy.
some can kick in. Who knows if they will or not? But imagine there's a litigation tranche, right? Maybe a labor union is able to join the challenge. Maybe some private plaintiffs are able to join the challenge. Number one. Number two, imagine if also you've got a clear line from the leading 2028 presidential candidates who, to a one, say this corrupt merger will be undone on day one I am in office, right? You've got promises to enact legislation to this effect. You've got backing from the key leaders in the left side of the aisle. Number two. Number three, imagine if a wave of people unsubscribes from Paramount Plus. It's going to hit their stock price. All of these things will bring down their stock price. And again, in this super financialized economy where literally, guys, these C-suite executives, most C-suite executives, and I can't speak directly to entertainment, but in most of these Fortune 100 companies, most of their money doesn't come from a salary. Most of the money comes from stock incentives and stock options. If suddenly the bottom is falling out on, the stocks that are paying for your, sweet place in Cabo or Aspen, that's paying for, that private school tuition for your son or daughter, those executives are going to think twice, and the financiers of this deal are going to think twice. And so Attorney General Rob Bonta of California is right. This is not a done deal. And people who are watching this on Wall Street need to understand that state attorneys general, not only do they have a legal incentive to block this, because this is rotten, this will result in the unemployment of thousands upon thousands of people in this country. Also, there's going to be a political incentive. We haven't even talked about this. There's going to be a political incentive for someone like Rob Bonta, to take action to show that he's putting up a fight, right? And so everyone on Wall Street needs to understand this is not a done deal. You should value it as such.
We've actually had some commentary come in through our YouTube channel. And
Oh,
I'd just like to
nice.
say
What are people saying?
thank you
Let's
to
see.
Roy Bowdoin1. He corrected that. He said that I think I'm assuming this was Del Rahim, that he works as the chief legal officer
really?
for Paramount.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but because he also said that there needs to be a DOJ challenge before the Tunniac proceeding. And I'd just like to correct you, sir, that actually it's about the deal. Like it's so.
I do think if DOJ clears it, that the Tunniac challenge is not possible. And so,
if they just clear it without any kind of a settlement.
I am not a Tunniac expert, but and by everyone who's hearing us talk about something called the
just
Tunniac,
seems like really, because that would seem really corrupt, which goes against the actual purpose of the Tunniac. Like, because there are clearly competition issues.
So people need to check my legal math.
Yeah.
By the way, we're talking about a law that was enacted in the wake of Nixon. Nixon was using his antitrust authority politically, and
we're just
right now
Watergate.
there's an active Tunniac challenge to the HPE Juniper merger, this big IT merger, networking merger. That's before Judge Casey Pitts, and he needs to decide whether the deal is in the public interest. I do think, however, if the DOJ authorities clear this, that the Tunniac challenge is much harder. But still, but again, people, there's all these ways to block this deal. Here's the last thing I'll say, Max, about this stuff is that this is a great reminder to support independent media.
Yes.
This is a great reminder, first of all, to support the journalists who are covering this. So the three that come to mind here are Richard Rushfeld at The Ankler, Hugo Lowell at The Guardian, my colleague Matt Stoller, who runs the big newsletter, who's a research director at AELP, have been putting out new information about these mergers. Support those journalists. Also support the people who are actually making media, independent media, that are questioning these things. And so for me, the top two that come to mind are More Perfect Union. You should subscribe to their YouTube channel right now. And Breaking Points, which is a populist news show that covers the news, offers daily commentary on the news from a left populist and right populist perspective. This was the independent media outlet that made me broke my completely unforgivable fast on paying for my media. I'm a premium subscriber to Breaking Points. And so this is a great opportunity and reminder for folks to support folks who make independent media and independent news.
I love Drop Site News. Ryan Grimm's publication, and Julian Andreoni, who is
crushing it in the halls of Congress.
Didn't I tell you, man? I saw you post about it, because it's like
he's a beast.
He is doing great work.
Yes,
he is just bombarding senators and Congress people, bombarding them with questions, and he knows his facts, and he's actually pinning them down, and it's creating some fantastic sound bites of just how uninformed these elected officials are, and just how corrupt they are too. You know, how they have to revert to some pretty corrupt talking points when challenged. So independent media. We didn't mention David Dayen.
The American Prospect. The American Prospect.
It's a little bit
David
different
Dayen.
form.
Terrific. No, but that's an excellent point. He broke some news last night. I think he was the first to break the news about Attorney General Rob Bonta saying this is not a done deal. Yeah. So again, folks, the journalists I would follow in this instance, Richard Rushfeld, The Ankler, Hugo Lowell at The Guardian, David Dayen, the American Prospect, Matt Stoller over at the Big Newsletter. I would follow
Capital Forum,
More Perfect Union, Breaking Points. But at this stage, Max, I feel like we covered most of the ground. Should we wrap? Remind folks about how to follow the show?
Absolutely.
What do you think?
So,
all right.
So you could have been watching us on our YouTube channel. We were lucky. We got At the Fair Fight on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do have a non-existent Facebook page that I'm trying to build up.
Facebook or Facebook Blue for the antitrust heads.
The Facebook, man.
TheFacebook.com.
We've got, of course, on Twitter. It's at the Fair Fight Pod on Twitter. We are on Upscrolled for those of you who are, migrating away from Twitter. You can find us on Upscrolled at the Fair Fight. And then, of course, at Blue Sky as well. We have at the Fair Fight Pod.
And so, folks, you can. So please, get our subscriber count. We need to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We are very far from that. I think we're at like 100.
Just a few over 100 right now.
And someone hilariously razzed me for that
I saw
online.
It's like,
it was like, oh, you're going on a show with 100 subscribers.
Well, we have
Cry
200.
harder.
We have 200 subscribers on Twitter for
cool
the Fair
ones.
Fight. Now, between the two of us, you've got like 16.
No, but look, we do need your help, folks. We need you to subscribe on YouTube. That's where I would point everyone right now. Pretty soon, we're going to be on all the feeds. Sam Goldberger. From my high school class, Vestal High School class of 1999, was like, dude, when are you going to be on the feeds? We're going to be on the feeds very soon. And I want to put in two last plugs here. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, a number of you joined late. You've got these live shows. They're going to be occurring every Friday at 7:45 Iowa time, 8:45 Maryland time, Eastern. But then we're also cutting these shows where people can ask questions about different parts of the economy. We're cutting these as pilots. We're going to put out a season at some point soon. But the exciting news that you heard it here first, the inimitable Cory Doctorow, the coiner of the term enshittification, out with an amazing book right now by the same title, the eponymous enshittification, the book. He will be our fourth
Stop
or fifth.
using your fancy words, Alvaro.
I'm working on it, man. It's mostly making sure I can still pronounce words. I'm getting old. So submit questions for Cory at thefairfightpod.com or ask at thefairfightpod.com. And first priority will be to those who leave us a voice note at thefairfightpod.com. You can record it right there, or you can call. And
that's on SpeakPipe. SpeakPipe at the Fair Fight Pod.
Okay, but you can access it from the website.
Oh yeah, you can from fairfightpod.com. You got
go
it
to the
all.
Fair Fight to ask Cory Doctorow a question about the messed up AI economy or enshittification.
But
go to the fairfightpod.com.
But Alvaro,
or
I'm
call.
old school.
Hold on.
I'm old school. I want to call you on the phone.
You want to call me on the phone? You can call me, Max, at 920-WE-FIGHT. 920-933-4448 and leave us a voicemail like you have a crush on us.
Hey, you want to tell us how much we suck? Come on,
what'd you say?
I want to get like
oh yes,
calls.
We welcome hate mail.
Yeah.
We welcome.
Come on, call me, tell me. I'm sure Matty Iglesias is out there.
You need to stop.
He's rage
watching.
Not
worth it, dude.
He's not worth it. He is like, I love that he only has corporate accounts and corporate sponsorships. Real people do not follow Matt Iglesias.
No comment. And but anyways, folks, thank you for joining us today. We'll see you. I think probably next Friday.
Next Friday, let's do it.
7:45 Central, 8:45 Eastern.
Call us and tell us what to talk about.
Call us and tell us what to ask Cory Doctorow, and that is 920-WE-FIGHT 920-933-4448.
Thank you guys for watching.
Have a great day.
The special live. We'll see you soon.